Welcome to the wood shop, and good evening, everybody. Okay, I saw Mr. Jay Taylor put up a video today, and he mentioned me, and so I thought I would respond with a video. What he was talking about was about his fence boards, and they had shrunk. And so I think he had said that what he did with his pickets was he had taken each one and butted them up against one another. And what's happened is they've now shrunk and they've gone out. So I don't know how it is in Canada, but here pressure treated lumber is very wet when you get it from here. And now occasionally when you're picking through a pile of pressure treated lumber, the boards on the outside will be more dry than the boards on the inside. So a lot of times when you pick up an inside board, there will actually be water. It will be damp when you pull it out. But some of the more exterior boards will actually be dry from being out in the sun or wherever, just by the nature of being outside on the pile. So they will be more dry. And so that's one reason that you had shrinkage that's being very inconsistent, because you had some of the boards that probably came from the inside of the pile versus the inside of the pile. Most treated lumber, and he mentioned again, we'll just stick with what he put, and then he talked about his deck boards, and how his deck boards, he had them a little too close together. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do there unless you were to pull them back up and try to put a wider space between it. You really couldn't run a saw between it because then you'd probably plow out too much. You could run a skill saw with a very thin blade and run down the gap and try to make it wider. But deck boards are rounded on the edge. I think I have a deck board. So like this deck board here, see how it's rounded on the edge? Hope you can see that. So it's rounded on the edge anyway, and if you were to do something like that, you cut the edge off. So basically, not much you can do on that. And then you mentioned about the deck boards that held up much better. Well, there's two things going on there. One, your deck boards are only exposed to the sun on one side, and not on just on the top side. It's not on the sides or the underside, just the tops. And also, it looked like your deck was pretty shady. We had some trees, and so that's going to limit the amount of sunlight that they receive. So, and then of course in the winter you all get a lot of snow, so there's a lot of moisture sitting on there, probably a lot more than here. So that's another issue of why that's held up better. The second reason that I believe those have held up better is most of the treated deck boards are grade number 1. Now, if you look at pine, now hardwood is a whole nother animal, but when you look at softwoods like pine, most of those boards have a grade of select, which is the best. Then it goes down 1, 2, 3, and then some people will have like a construction grade, which is what they use for like trusses. Then they have a utility grade, which would be used for like pallets. Now, when you're talking about pine, there's really not much structural wrong with it. It's just mainly cosmetic at that point. Now hardwood's another animal, but when you see that, so take for example this is a 4x4 post. Let me flip you around here. So this is a 4x4 post, and you see it's got good tight grain. Now we do have some checking here of the things across the top. Those are called checks, and that's just where it has dried. And now, when this was new, it would be very heavy, even this little short piece, but it has dried out in the interim. So those are the two things. One, your deck boards are not drying at the same rate because your fence boards are getting sun or exposed to sun on all sides because you've got them hanging this way. And they're getting sun on this side, sun on that side, sun on the top, and they are really drying out fast. Really drying out fast. You could coat those, but it's not going to put the moisture back in them. And they're going to expand and contract with changes in the season. So, that's just one of those things. But again, your deck boards being a higher grade also changes things a little bit. If you imagine if you imagine the end of a log, and when they go through to saw it, they're trying to get the maximum amount of wood that they can. And while you've got 4x4s and 4x6 and 6x6, those are coming out of the center of the log. That's some of the best part of the wood. And then you've got all the other stuff like molding and 2x4s and 2x6s and all that coming from the outside. And then you got things like deck boards, or fence posts, things that you're using, fence pickets, sorry, that you're using for that. And so that's not going to be some of the best wood. I noticed you had some knots and all that, just like every other fence does. And so that means that the wood was further on the outside, which means it's not as the same quality as the inside. So that's kind of my rambling on. We've rambled on here 6 minutes now. So basically, it's just a part of nature, and I think you said something about just live and learn, and that's exactly what it is. So, anytime you fool with wood, everything's different, and every piece of wood's different, and depending on where you live, it's different. And so I wouldn't worry too much about it. With your gaps in your fence, and if you're running around naked, you might want to put something over the gap of that. I don't know. With the hot tub there, I don't know what's going on there with that. So, I'm just saying, if you get some video of it, if it does happen, that's all I'm asking. So anyway, just kidding, by the way. So anyway, that's me rambling on long enough about wood, but this is the wood shop after all, and you did ask. So from the wood shop, take it easy.